Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Rav Shmuel with you with this week's 10-minute Torah. This week we are discussing and looking into Parsha Terumah. Now, Terumah is one of those concept words that doesn't really have an English equivalent. It means a portion, taking a part of. And the idea is that everybody is going to be contributing, all the Israelites in the wilderness, now that they've said, we will do and we will hear, when God started talking about or giving them the 10 Commandments or announcing the 10 Commandments, and then Mishpatim, all the other important commandments that comes after them. And now we're going to build some structures and some furnitures in order to have a venue, have a meeting place, if you will. And the tabernacle is going to be called the Mizbeach, which comes from, Mishkan, rather. Mishbeach, I'm sorry, is the altar, but the Mishkan is going to be the tabernacle, and it comes from the word shochen, like shochenad. It means presence. It means neighborhood. It means something that's there. So being physical beings living in a material world, that's how we relate. That's how we humans relate to things. This is one of the reasons why idolatry and paganry were like the first religions. People saw these things happening and they assumed that those were the things that were controlling their life, so they worshiped them and sacrifice to them, etc. Okay, the distinction of Judaism is that we don't worship objects, we don't worship nature, we don't worship natural things. We worship Hashem, and that's basically it. And what is Hashem? Hashem is, according to Kabbalah, I know you're all into that, Ein Sof, that is without end. But even more than that, the word Hashem, or the word that we pronounce Hashem, Yud-He Vav-He, comes from the future, present, and past tenses of the word to be, because God is immortal. God is outside of time and space. How do you conceive of something like that? People always ask, who created God? Where was God before the universe was created? God is outside of time and space. How do we humans that have physical brains that contain our minds and our consciousness conceive that? Well, we need these things to go and worship and go through the rituals, go through the motions of worshiping and sacrificing. And to do that, we give of ourselves. Think of that in terms of what terumah really means, okay? Because basically, we are creating this habitat, if you will, where we can go and we can actually act out a lot of the principles that we're going to start working on, right? So these three portions, Yitro, where we got the 10 Commandments, Mishpatim, where we got commandments discussing how to respect people for their bodies, for their possessions, and the society that we're in. And now before we move on to that, all right, we're going to have a place that we can relate to. So what is it that gets made here? Well, God is telling us that we're going to put together this structure I always compare it, when I talk to the kids, I always say it's like MASH. Everybody remembers the show MASH, where they had that hospital in Korea. And MASH stands for Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. The Mishkan, the first one, before the temple was created, was actually a mobile structure. So they made planks. They made these hooks and these bars to fit into the planks, and they made this structure that would come together when they're out. They'd be traveling, and then they put it up, and there you go. There's your tabernacle. So it was really, when you look at it, it was really kind of a whole engineering feat. I mean, again, they had these planks. And they had these little tips at the end, and you put two planks together. They put a little thing. Let's pretend these are the tips of two planks. You put a little socket there. It holds the planks together. Then you had these little rings, in the top part and the bottom part, and you had these poles that went through it. And then through the planks, in the middle of the planks, they bored holes, and they put a pole through that, and that's what kept them standing. Aside from that, you had this very silk curtain that went around it, and then you had a covering of a tachash hide. They'd say a tachash is an animal that no longer exists, it's extinct, who knows. And that went over that. Then you had the things that went into it. And the dimensions, by the way, were very specific as to how to make it. It can be found in either online in the art scroll, and the exact dimensions escape me, but it was pretty high, it was pretty tall. And it was very, very long and very wide, enough so where you could put inside of it the Kadosh Kedoshim, which was the Holy of Holies. Then you had the things that went into it. So you had the Ark, which contained the Ten Commandments, those tablets. You had an altar to do the sacrifices. You had a menorah, big lamp, that had the seven, that had the one in the middle and then the three on the outside, kind of, how am I going to do this, pointing in a little bit, because those outside lights, one represents the material, one represents the spiritual, pointing into the middle, which, is Torah, it's God, right? Then you had a table upon which these two columns, 6 each, where the bread went. And every week they made the showbread, kind of like, no, it wasn't challah. Let's talk about challah real quick while we're talking about bread. Everybody says challah is bread. Challah is not bread. The word for bread is lechem, right? Motzi lechem min haaretz. So what is challah? Challah was the portion that was taken before the bread was baked. It was the portion of dough that was an offering to the priests and the Levites. So challah is, we use challah today to, as for the specific bread that we make for Friday night, but it's different actually. Okay, so those are the things that we need. And why do we have all these things? Why do we have a place of worship? Some people say, well, we need altars, and we need that because of the way the Israelites just wouldn't, all the problems that they caused in the wilderness. Where's our water? Where's our food? When are we going to get meat? Then there was, all the other things that happen. So we need something to kind of reassure us. Look at it that way, reassure us. And to kind of go through the motions, to have a place to walk in, a meeting place with God, and a place to go in and do our rituals. And that way we're immersed. The physical activities allow us to immerse in the spirituality. Consider this. Later on in the Torah, we're going to get the laws of kashrut. We know what kashrut is a very specific dietary laws. Why do we have kashrut? People say, well, we're not supposed to know. It doesn't matter. It's a hukim. It's a decree. You just do it. Some people say there's health reasons, which I kind of don't buy myself. Other people will say, and this is my thinking, that it's just a way to remind you for the command. It's another reminder, the same way tzitzit are a reminder. The way we put the mezuzot on the door is a reminder. And kashrut, you're always eating. If your attention is on, okay, I eat this, not that, then you're kind of thinking, why am I doing this? Because I have a responsibility. Okay, so that's another way of keeping in touch with our morals and principles, right? Today, prayer has kind of replaced the sacrifices. Okay, so again, the terumah is everybody's contributing, to the upkeep. A lot of the gold and silver that they took from their Egyptian neighbors in order to make up for the slavery, that went into making this. Okay, I'm going to end this a little early today. Shabbat Shalom. And thank you for everybody that participated in services while I was away. And we are now back to regular. Okay. So again, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you very much. And we will see you again.